Most businesses believe marketing success comes down to a few visible things: creativity, advertising budgets, viral content, clever campaigns. But those things are not the foundation of marketing. They sit on top of something deeper. In this video, I'm going to show you the strategic layers underneath successful marketing, the hidden structure that determines whether campaigns work or fail. Once you understand these layers, marketing stops feeling chaotic. It becomes structured. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Marketing chaos is almost always a structure problem, not a creativity problem. When those deeper layers are weak, marketing becomes unpredictable. Campaigns underperform. Messaging feels generic. Internal debates keep reopening the same decisions. Teams disagree on direction. Everything starts to feel chaotic. But the chaos usually has a simple explanation. Most businesses are operating without the strategic layers that marketing actually depends on. And once you see those layers, something very important happens. You realize that great marketing isn't built from tactics. It's built from layers of strategic thinking. Make sure you still until the end of this video, because I will connect these layers into a simple strategic map, one that explains why so much marketing feels unstable and how to fix it. Let's start with the first layer. Think of marketing like a layered structure. Most people only see the top layers, the visible activities, advertising, social media, campaigns, content projects. Those are the things everyone talks about. But those visible activities are supported by deeper structural layers. And if those layers are weak, the entire structure becomes unstable. No matter how creative the campaign might be, no matter how much budget goes into advertising. So before we talk about tactics, we need to understand the layers underneath them. There are 5 core layers that shape whether marketing works or fails. Understanding how buying decisions actually happen. Understanding how persuasion works. Understanding who exactly exists in the market. Understanding how to position your product. And understanding how to convey meaningful value. Let's start with layer number 1. How buying decisions actually happen. The first layer of marketing strategy is understanding how people actually make buying decisions. If marketing doesn't align with the way people decide, it struggles immediately. Most marketing textbooks explain buying decisions using a 5-step model: need recognition, information search, evaluation of alternatives, purchase, and post-purchase evaluation. This model describes what happens after someone has already recognized a problem. But in reality, the major part of customers are not there yet. They feel friction in their current situation. Something feels frustrating, inconvenient. Something isn't working quite right. But they don't yet recognize the real problem. This is why awareness levels are so important. People move through different stages before buying. First, they start unaware. Then they become problem aware, then solution aware, then product aware, and finally most aware, where they are ready to decide. Each stage requires different communication. If someone does not yet recognize the problem, talking about product features will never work. You lose them instantly. Understanding where someone is in their awareness journey is the first strategic layer of marketing, because persuasion works when it meets people where they are at. So if I were launching a new product, this is the first thing I would analyze. Where exactly is the audience in their awareness journey? Because the wrong message at the wrong stage kills persuasion immediately. Layer number 2, the structure of persuasion. Now, once someone recognizes they have a problem, persuasion begins. And this is where many people misunderstand marketing. They think persuasion is about tactics, scarcity, urgency, social proof. But those are not the foundation of persuasion. They are amplifiers. The real mechanism behind persuasion is reducing uncertainty. Persuasion is not pressure. Persuasion is uncertainty reduction. People say yes when 4 things feel clear. First, relevance. They need to feel that this solution is meant for someone like them. Second, safety. They need to believe the solution is trustworthy. Third, justification. They need a logical reason that makes the decision feel sensible. And fourth, identity alignment. The choice must feel consistent with who they believe they are, or who they want to be. Good marketing reduces uncertainty across these four dimensions. This is also where persuasion becomes deeper. Products can be communicated at different levels. At the surface level, you talk about features, then benefits, then problem solved, then the enemy product fights, then the life improvement it creates, and finally, the identity transformation it enables. The deeper you communicate value, the stronger persuasion becomes. Because people rarely buy products for the product itself. They buy progress toward the person they want to become. Now, once you understand how persuasion works, the next question becomes obvious. Who exactly are we persuading? Now we move from psychology into strategy. The third layer is segmentation. Segmentation answers a simple question. Who exists in the market? Markets are rarely one uniform group of people. They are collections of different groups with different motivations. But many businesses segment markets only using demographics. Things like age, gender, income, location. The problem is that demographics describe who someone is, but they never explain how these people think. Good segmentation explains behavior, not description. Two people can have identical demographics and completely different motivations. This is why psychographic segmentation is much more powerful. Psychographics focus on motivations, goals, frustrations, fears, aspirations. Segmentation becomes meaningful when it identifies groups of people who share a specific situation or a problem, one common denominator. For example, instead of targeting people from 25 to 45-year-olds who are interested in marketing, you might identify groups like startup founders running their own ads, agency owners scaling their teams, in-house marketers overwhelmed by internal feedback. Now the segments represent real situations. These segments would require completely different messaging, even though the product might be the same. That's when segmentation becomes strategically useful. Once segments become clear, another problem appears. Why should those people choose you instead of the alternatives? Layer 4. Positioning clarity. Once you understand the segments in the market, the next step is positioning. Positioning is often misunderstood. Many people think positioning is branding language or taglines, but positioning is actually decision logic. It explains why a very specific group of people with one specific problem should choose your solution instead of the alternatives. A simple positioning structure connects four elements: one very specific audience, one very specific problem, one key advantage, and one main alternative. For example, the audience: overwhelmed in-house marketers. Specific problem: the work keeps reopening because meetings are driven by opinions. Key advantage: a structured decision framework. Current alternative: subjective marketing discussions. Positioning is decision architecture. When positioning is clear, everything else in marketing becomes much easier. Because your messaging now answers a very specific question. Why should a very specific person with one very specific problem choose you as a solution? When positioning is vague, marketing becomes noisy. Everything starts sounding the same. But even strong positioning raises another question. Does the product actually create meaningful value for the intended audience? Layer 5. Building real value. Once positioning is defined, the next layer is value. One useful framework for thinking about value is the value proposition canvas. It connects two sides: the customer profile and the offer. The customer profile helps dive deep into the audience, the jobs they are trying to accomplish, pains they are currently experiencing in the process, and gains they want to achieve. The offer includes products, pain relievers, and gain creators. Value occurs when the offer directly addresses the most important pains and gains. The value can also be expressed at different depths, and there are three common levels of value propositions that I always use. Originally, this framework offers three common levels of value propositions: the technical level, the problem level, and the identity level. Technical value describes the mechanics. For example, structure templates for marketing campaigns. Problem value describes the outcome. For example, eliminate opinion-driven marketing decisions. And identity value goes the deepest. For example, Become a confident strategic authority in your organization. And the strongest brands always communicate the identity transformation, because identity level change is far more motivating than technical features. Whenever I'm working on value propositions, I always like to go one step further. So instead of simply stating the features that the product offers, I use the two-part system. We as a brand offer you these features so that you as an audience can experience these benefits. Then the problem context. We as a brand solve these problems so that you as an audience can experience these life improvements. And finally, the identity transformation level. We as a brand fight this enemy so that you as an audience can experience this identity transformation. I feel like this two-part structure conveys much more value and decreases the cognitive load even further. As an audience, you don't have to think as much. When a product describes not only what's being offered, but what's the value in it for you. I feel like this makes things much easier in the purchase decision process for the intended audience. Now, connecting these strategic layers into one structure makes it obvious why so much marketing struggles. Most businesses start at the wrong place. They start with tactics, ads, contents, campaigns, creative ideas. But no amount of effort in tactical phase will compensate for weak foundation. If segmentation is unclear, targeting becomes broad. If positioning is not defined or weak, messaging becomes generic. If value is shallow, persuasion becomes difficult. So problems that appear tactical are actually structural. Fix the structure, and suddenly tactics start working much better. Ads perform better. Messaging resonates more strongly. Campaigns generate more response, because the underlying strategy is now clear. So the biggest insight to take away here is simple. Marketing is not primarily about creativity. It's about structured thinking. And most effective marketing is built in layers. First, understanding how buying decisions happen. Second, understanding how persuasion works. Third, choosing the right audience through segmentation. Fourth, defining clear positioning. And fifth, building a compelling value proposition. When these layers are clear, marketing becomes much easier. Messaging becomes sharper. Persuasion becomes stronger. And marketing stops feeling chaotic. Most marketing advice focuses on tactics. But tactics only work when the structure underneath them is clear. If you want to go deeper into these frameworks, check the resources in the description and the pinned comment below. And if you like this video, you will also appreciate this one. It describes the science of persuasion in depth. Thanks for watching.